got a lot of young, intelligent people that need to step up. And these people up here that ain't stepping up, we need to ship them out.
Hi, I'm Gabe Whiteplume from the Whiteplume Sioux. I'm 19 years old. I'm a senior at Pioneer High School, and I'm here to talk about genocide and the facts about Pioneer High School and how much that they've been dropping a lot of. The percentage of dropping students is up to 89%, and 50% of the students drop their classmates by the time the first quarter ends. So a lot of us don't get a chance.
The first thing I'd like to bring to the attention of my fellow students is our healthcare system's pretty fucked up. Well, excuse my French, but I'm just being honest here, and that issue kind of really gets to me. Our healthcare systems are screwed. Our doctors are third world country doctors who really don't know what they're doing, and they come down here, and the stitches they give us are messed up. I'd rather go home, find a needle and a piece of thread and stitch myself up than go up there. Mr. Steele, what's up with our healthcare and our water?
Okay, well, let me tell you one thing I just came back from. I was over here at Sacred Heart Church just now. The state of South Dakota is over there with their commission on Indian Child Welfare Act. The state has an organization out here at the airport that's taking our kids away. They're taking them away in Rapid City. They're taking them away in Hot Springs, all over South Dakota. And they're putting them with white foster homes. And parents are losing their parental rights. I just gave testimony over there before the state committee.
What about our water?
Well, what you gonna do about that to stop that?
We're making our own organization. We're kicking the state out of here. The state is going to get out of here.
Our kids
This has been going on for years.
Our tap water is worse than our creek water.
Us guys are safer to drink our creek water.
We don't drink creek water. All the sewage and sand waste goes into that creek water.
Omitaki api, Jared hake machi api lo. Wana sapi tiosh ba ematra na yuha chante waste na pechi zapelo. Poya chik ala he mielo. Ikchewe chasha he macha.
See, right here is the black mold. That's another thing that's causing a lot of the sicknesses.
Black mold attacks young children the worst. Their entire respiratory system. You see 4 and 5-year-olds with that bottle of oxygen and that mask on their face. 4 and 5-year-olds. And of course, the elderly and the sickly, the sugar diabetics, they're prone and susceptible to that black mold, which attacks the respiratory system. Black mold is rampant throughout the 9 reservations in South Dakota and the reservations in North Dakota and Montana, the Northern Plains. And we have no relief. It's a national disaster area, but the governors refuse to call for it, and of course, Washington, D.C. refused to recognize it.
And these were supposed to be fixed 2 years ago. They still haven't come around yet. And the lights, this is burned out, but still hasn't been fixed. This window here too hasn't been replaced. We reported it last month and still hasn't been replaced.
We'll probably go through it like that all winter.
So we either fix it ourselves and pay for it out of our own pockets. That'll probably be the solution to that.
And I know that the cockroach feces makes you sick too.
I bet it does, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see.
And the bad part is you get rid of them and they come back in about 3 months. We have to keep our food in plastic
Right, keep it in
containers.
plastic
Yeah.
so they can't get in. And this is the stove, huh?
This is the stove and it needs a knob.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
can't use the oven. Yeah.
Oh, you can't use the oven? Oh, this is a fly thing, huh? Can you shine your flashlight on that? Yeah. That catches the flies.
Yeah, fly ribbon.
Wow. Flies. Well, Emma gave us a grand tour, Matthew.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one that's just,
Where's it? Oh, right back here.
yeah, it's eating away.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Nowhere else in the Western Hemisphere is the life expectancy so short. Not in the shanty towns of Rio de Janeiro, not in Guatemala, not in El Salvador, not in Mexico, nowhere. But on Indian reservations, our national life expectancy is 47 years of age.
Okay, we would like to invite the President of the United States to our house to visit with us, and we can take him all over to the hospitals, the schools, and to visit with neighbors and even us.
The reservation physical life is one of misery. Fortunately, we still have our culture. And that breathes life into us. I can't make an American understand because they have no culture. What I can tell you, and culture is beyond singing and dancing, by the way. And it's beyond, way beyond Wall Street or MTV. What culture is values, and we still have our spirituality. And I thank the Great Mystery for this beautiful land and the opportunity to be Lakota.
This is the corporate offices for Lakota Journal newspaper, Lakota Media Incorporated corporate offices, including our printing plant operations. This would be the editorial department of the newspaper where the writing staff would be located. To this area, we get back to our actual printing press. Our printing press, which prints our newspaper as well as the Dakota Journal, a new newspaper that we've started out on the eastern side of the state. With the printing press, owning our own printing presses, we'll be able to print other tribal newspapers and also allow us to print some of the other newspapers that we plan on, bureaus that we plan on opening in the near future. Our goal is to open a chain of newspapers that will serve the various Indian tribes across the country.
There's more money spent on convicts, on criminals, per day than is spent on health care for Native American people. Yet for succession of our lands, we were guaranteed these basic rights, of quality health care. So, more money is spent to house an inmate, a person who has committed crimes against society, than to provide health care to people that are trying to become an active member of society. And it's unfortunate. I mean, it's an atrocity that this is going on.
The corrections industry is a growth industry in this country, and I think that there are private interests that lobby quite effectively to have those public resources invested in them. I don't think it's a case where the public necessarily values the health of incarcerated individuals any differently than Indian people, but that's the way that it plays out when you measure the relative public investments.
I had problems with my teeth, and I remember I went in 3 different times and asked to have my teeth saved, but what wound up happening is I was told, oh yeah, we can save your teeth. What wound up happening was my teeth got pulled. I said, hey, I need those. I was born with those. Traditionally, we're meat eaters. And after that, it was kind of a 3 strikes and you're out type of deal.
I've had the wrong tooth pulled from the dental clinic here. And, and could hear, the assistant, oh my God, I switched his x-ray with the Indian lady down at the end. These types of things make it very leery for, any Indian person to go to the hospital. I have seen many cases, and being in the business that I am, in the newspaper business, numerous letters and complaints of allegations of being treated racist, talked down to, treated very disrespectful. We have a right to receive at least a little dignity, compassion, and respect.
We commissioned in the Congress a study of the problems of minorities in terms of getting health care in this country, meaning Black and Hispanic and Asian and Native American. And the study was done showing disparities everywhere, and the administration said, we're not going to put something like that out there. So they took it back and they rewrote the whole thing. And it was so deceptive that the first sentence in it was that, there's a few problems. And then they said, but there are many positive things. For instance, Indians have a lower cancer rate. They didn't mention that Indians have a shorter lifespan. So the fact they don't live long enough to get cancer doesn't even get factored in. I mean, they distorted what the facts were.
My view about Indian Health Service being designed to fail is that it is set up to meet, with the resources it has available, only 60% of the documented need for healthcare service delivery. I'm not talking here about extras like preventive health and maternal and child health, or special programs with diabetes or HIV/AIDS, or the administrative improvements that would give us the planning information to allocate resources better. I'm talking about documented primary health care needs.
The Lakota people, you have to understand that before the Vietnamese defeated the United States of America, we did. And we've been paying for it ever since. We gained a treaty out of the deal. We won. They begged us for peace. We gave it to them. And ever since then, they put us on these concentration camps they call reservations. And then they begin the slow strangulation of a people. IHS perpetuates the genocide.
I believe today that in certain respects it is remarkable that we continue to live and survive, and even in some respects thrive today, when we were so close to extinction at the turn of the century. I certainly share his belief that that our people have been subjected to genocide. Clearly we have been in the past. Now today, today it's different. Today we don't have aggressive, overt measures taken against us. Things are much more covert and things are much more insidious. The prejudice and discrimination is much more institutionalized than it is aggressively carried out by individuals.
Our young people today are adopting American culture, whatever that is, or they're adopting a hip-hop rap culture, they're adopting a computer culture with violent video games, they're adopting the Hollywood violence, cinematographic violence culture. All of that is what's going through them. And how can you have healthy people when they, first of all, don't consider each other relatives or don't think that way and they can't take care of each other? That was number one, because a long time ago, mostly the women, they were medicine men, of course, but the grandmas, they took care of the simple medicines that they could go out and gather. And maybe each grandma in a family would have 20 or so or 30 medicines she might use to cure things. His name is Chataokia, which means flying hawk, and he is my archery buddy and my hunting buddy. And he's 5 years old. And he and my other boys probably puppy meat and at ceremony, and then buffalo meat, deer meat, fresh fish, vegetables. Those were their first meats. Those were their first foods. Even when he was 3 months old, any of these boys, we used to chew their meat, chew up meat, and feed them just a little bit. By the time they're 6 months, chewing up more meat and feeding them. You see one?
Now this is your quiver here, Jay?
Yeah, that's my bow and my arrows, and I made them the way they would have made them a long time ago, and this is what I hunt with.
Can you show us?
Sure. My goal is to... when it's high, look. Oh, okay.
You have that one.
Okay, my arrow, thank you.
You made this yourself?
Yeah. I make all my arrows. Made my bow.
Mama, you make my bow? You make my water?
The first one you had when you were 2.
On the hop. And remember those wooden nails?
If you want to get in good health, then I would suggest anything traditional will put you in good health. This is 62 pounds of pole. We don't shoot like Europeans would shoot this way. We shoot instinctively. We shoot at a 45-degree angle like this. And where I let off my arrows is about 50 to 55 pounds, so it's enough to drop a buffalo. And I took down a buffalo off horseback with this bow. Mainly, we want to show our youth, get our young people involved in healthy things. If you learn, exercise your traditional values, our ancestors at one time were bowmasters, they were horse masters, and not only is that great exercise and fun and a traditional thing to do, but if you learn archery and then you learn how to hunt, you're going to bring home healthy food, as opposed to if I hunt up in the hills and I knock over an elk or a deer, or if I get a turkey, I know the label when I lift up their tail says turkey meat, deer meat, elk meat, antelope meat. If I go to the grocery store and buy pork or beef or chicken, there's so many nitrates and chemicals and hormones that are in those animals that I don't know what it is anymore, but it's definitely not meat, whatever they do to it. And I think one of the steps to good health, again, is having that traditional diet.
Alcoholism has always been, I mean, we have no industry, over 80% unemployment. Now it's almost 90% because of the government cutbacks. The health hospital is not It's called a comprehensive hospital with one dentist, with no surgeons, one gynecologist.
At the same time, utilization rates for our Indian Health Service facilities show that between 6 and 8 visits each year are made by every single man, woman, and child on our reservations here in western South Dakota. So, although there may be some people who feel that way, clearly not most people feel that way. And in fact, whereas in the majority society, the average number of doctor visits for man, woman, and child is somewhere around 2.4 or 2.5. As I mentioned, it's up over 6 among our people. So there, in general, I don't think there's too very many people that are too adverse to presenting to the clinics.
I went to emergency, and the doctor that admitted me, after she admitted me, then another doctor took over. And he was like, to me, he was like stoned or something, like he didn't really know what he was doing.
We have had a history of receiving, very poorly trained doctors. People have either experienced personally, have suffered at the hands of these people, or know of family members. I have an aunt a few years ago that was misdiagnosed. They gave her the wrong medication for her heart. She died within an hour after taking her medication.
So if it's a matter of an ambulance that drives and then the ambulance doesn't get, they get half their money because the Indian Health Services, that's all we pay, well, why would you drive out there? Why go? So if I'm going to lose money driving out to pick somebody up and bring them back in, it's hard to say that you would do it if you were driving an ambulance. I mean, you got to make a living. You got to pay for the gasoline, pay for the driver, and all the rest. So you can't make it up in the volume by losing money on every case.
There never was a disease here or health crisis a long time ago. You had a way of life that was very healthy. People were active and they lived outside all the time. People were gathering prairie turnips, choke cherries, buffalo berries, wild plums, wild asparagus, wild artichoke. There's a lot of cactus. There's a lot of things that grows on the prairie, even in the Badlands, that most people don't know about, that one can not only survive off of, but is very healthy. Again, this is government surplus. It's produce that the government has contracts with farmers across the United States. Farmers grow crops. They have to be able to sell them to keep their farms going. The government will buy out these crops, and commodity food programs are not only something for Native Americans, but people on welfare in this country have often gone in for commodity foods at food banks. The problem is in the past, commodity foods have been so unhealthy with all the corn starch, the fat, the sugar, the oils, the palm seed oil, the salt. There's a lot of stuff that was never in our traditional diet. So out of that, you developed a extremely high rate of diabetes, heart disease, obesity. A lot of health problems have plagued our people due to the use and abuse of commodity foods.
The other product that we had, I can recall graphically, was chipped beef. This was a byproduct from making steak, and it was. It wasn't ground up like ground beef, but it was literally it was chips of beef. And these chips of beef were packed in pure lard. And they came in a little silver can. It bore a U.S. Department of Agriculture black writing on the can, and it was just chipped beef. And it was packed in lard, so my grandma like mini grandmas would open it up, she'd empty out the whole contents in a pan and, you know, kind of fry it all up together, you know, and here you're taking the beef and you're frying it up in pure lard. Of course, you know, you may not want me to mention that also what they used to hand out in commodities is pure lard. A whole can of lard, just lard and nothing but lard.
There is a new killer out there now, and that killer is obese. 1 out of every 5 children on our reservation is obese. Everybody blames the commodities. Everybody blames that. That is one of the biggest myths I've ever known. I call that a lie because of the simple fact that at the end of the month, everybody eats commodities because their monthly income doesn't last all month. Because it don't last is you buy with the food stamps that are given you, you buy pop, candy, potato chips, things, fatty foods, things that will really be detrimental to your health. And when those are expensive. If you look on the reservation shelves of all the grocery store, that's all they sell. Potato chips, pop, and candy. No exercise, the TV and the gang movies and the gangster movies. You have set that pattern on yourself. You have set your lifestyle as destruction.
Family is the basic core of who you are. Each family member you know, has a contribution to the family. Our value system is completely different. Mainstream society, what can I get? What can I attain? You know, traditional Indian value, what can I give away? The measure of a man is by what you can do for others. So it's a complete reversal of a mainstream society. You know, which is to attain everything that you can and unfortunately trample whoever you need to in the process.
Hey, what's stud? Checking us out. Sioux. What I know is that we have enjoyed a 35-year cultural renaissance in the American Indian community. What I thought was just a small organization in a small country like the United States trying to rectify our rights was actually a spark of liberation that ignited the flame of indigenous people, not only in the Western Hemisphere, but worldwide. Our work at the United Nations, because of Wounded Knee, our work at the United Nations for 12 years, united. We are the ones who sponsored the very first and only conference on the indigenous peoples of the world. We got a decade named after the indigenous peoples of the world by the United Nations. Consequently, I am totally optimistic. I mean, indigenous people worldwide are communicating with us, with everyone.
The president's talking about providing universal health care for Iraqis. Huh? What about for Americans? I mean, it's really, it was stunning when that statement came out of the White House that they were going to provide health care and water and all this for everybody in Iraq, when we know that isn't true in the United States.
If the president says that in this territory we now occupy, that health care will be free to Iraqi citizens, I think that that's a wonderful gesture and inexpensive way to assure the next generation of healthy, strong citizenship. Why don't we have that in this country? I don't have an answer for that.
You know, I've heard, you know, from a very few good sources that, you know, some of the administrators have received pay increases. I guess, you know, it goes a little higher up, I think. than just Sioux with the federal government's management of that program. It needs to be revamped. I think it needs to be investigated, and there's some serious questions that arise from that. The funding isn't there. It's been cut every year.
We have to look at what John F. Kennedy said about the United States. He said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, what you can do for your country." Well, we're going to have to use that as, ask not what your treaty can do for you, but what we can do for the treaty and our livelihood.
The main prescription has to do with tribes being able to control their own destiny and serve the needs of their own people. Tribes know their people best. This is not a matter for the federal government to be directly involved. In my opinion, the federal government needs to make the resources available, but it needs to get out of the business of delivering those healthcare services. And for tribes that don't have the capacity yet to deliver healthcare services to their people, the federal government needs to be in the business of helping those tribes develop that capacity.
It's a prophecy by Blackout. He says, maybe there's a root of the sacred tree of life still alive. We must find that root, nourish it, so the tree can once again grow and flower and mend our nation's hoop.